It's a devastating problem that affects millions of gamers all across the world. It brings stress, anxiety, resentment, and anger. What is this terrible tragedy of which I speak? Too many games, not enough time, not enough money, and most importantly, why do publishers release everything at the end of the year? How do we deal with it as gamers? How do we deal with it as critics? And is this practice damaging the industry? We'll debate it on this week's GameCritics.com podcast. The GameCritics.com podcast for the week of November 9th, 2008. Speaking of resentment, I would much rather be playing Fallout 3 right now, Hannibal Lectering my way across the wasteland, but my presence here is a testament to the loyalty I have for you, my fellow game critics, and of course our audience. What a great show we have this week. We've got a killer topic, and to tackle it, the smallest assembly of game critics in the long and storied two-episode history of this podcast. Let's start out west. Seattle's own Brad Gallaway, senior critic for GameCritics.com. Brad, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm good, Tim. Good to be back. The only thing on my plate this week before the podcast was actually finishing up Fallout 3, and I'm proud to say that, unlike your intent, I have not eaten a single human over the entire 50-hour span of the game. It's fantastic stuff, but, no cannibalism for me.
So it can be enjoyed without eating people?
Absolutely. How I prefer it, actually.
I intended to play it last night for maybe 30 minutes, and it turned into about a 4-hour session.
I saw you on, and I was going to say, he's up kind of late.
Yeah, I got home from my trip, and I said I really should go to bed and get some sleep, but no, Fallout sucked me in, and now I'm trying to decide. It really is a moral dilemma, blow up that town or not, and I'm really debating it. But anyway, Fallout is Fallout. Let's introduce the other member of our podcast this week, a newcomer to the podcast, but a longtime Game Critics veteran up in Toronto, Mr. David Stone. David, how are you, sir?
Not bad, Tim. How you doing?
It's an honor and a pleasure to have you join our podcast family.
Oh, thanks a lot. Yeah, so I haven't actually had a chance to play Fallout 3 because I've been kind of embroiled in Gears of War as a marriage-building exercise.
It's a wonderful thing. Are you playing as Marcus, or are you playing as Dom?
Well, if I tell you who I'm playing as, you'll know who wears the pants in my marriage. So I'm playing as Dom.
Second fiddle, baby.
But I'm a happy man.
I love it.
It's a great co-op thing. I mean, I know people slag on it for the writing, but I don't play Gears of War for the epic story. I play it for just blowing stuff up, and this game just does it way too well.
Well, I heard that they upped the ante on the story, that it contains a rich emotional experience. Is that not the case? It doesn't tug at the heartstrings?
Well, it tugs at something, but it ain't no heartstring.
I don't think it went Marcus tugging on my thing. No thanks, man.
You'd probably rip it off.
All right, and with that, now David was kind enough to actually bring our topic for the week, the holiday gaming glut, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, but we wanted to first read a comment from the message boards that was left about our first episode, and Brad, I think you've got that in front of you, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I've got that right here. I'll go ahead and read this. This is from Dr. Anus. Good comment, but you might want to think about changing your name there, Doc. Anyway, his comment is, fantastic selection of examples in the last segment, most of which I have never played and look forward to. It is so refreshing to hear game critics discuss extensively and confidently about emotional impact in gaming just as they would amongst themselves, without the constraints of the traditional written formula. For me, this is the moment where you confirm your relevance among the community. Blog entries tended to fall a little short, reviews tend to be caught up in technical or gameplay issues. I will be proud to listen again. Thanks for that comment, Doc.
Are we sure it's not Doc Tyrannus?
It could be, but the capitalization the way it is, I don't know.
Grammar strikes again.
Curse grammar. Well.
There's nothing wrong with being a proctologist, I guess, Who knows? He's probably got a nice car.
That's a Seinfeld reference, isn't it?
Actually, no. I was just thinking he had a nice car. I've never watched Seinfeld, so
it is a Seinfeld reference. I'll let the board people come up with that, but yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. Well,
had you meant it as a Seinfeld reference, it would have been an extremely clever one. So you should have taken credit for it.
Damn it!
Yeah.
Well, slow on the uptake. Sorry.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. We do have some quick hits this week, some games we've been playing recently. Brad, your love affair with WiiWare, it's more than just a love affair at this point. You are single-handedly keeping the system alive, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's kind of a torrid, steamy love affair and not suitable for the kids. The games are, just not my love affair. But yeah, it's true. I gotta say, when WiiWare started out, I was really not impressed, and I wasn't expecting much from it either, but boy, they have just really proven me wrong. And they're kind of leading it right now in terms of downloadable content. The game I wanted to mention this week was Art Style Rotohex. That's Rotohex. Although it's not as fantastic as the last two, Rotohex is definitely worth a look for people who are into stone-cold puzzling. Basically what happens is the playfield is a hexagon, and little triangles fall from the top towards the bottom. Okay, block dropping is nothing new, granted, but the twist here is that you have to make 6 triangles of the same color form a hexagon before they get removed from the board. And trust me, if that sounds hard, it's actually a lot harder than it sounds, so it's like twice as hard. Like the other art style games, this one definitely focuses on technique and skill. It is just about impossible to get blocks off the board by randomly clicking around. Like when you're in Tetris in a hurry and things are stacking up and you just start going crazy and all of a sudden you get like a Tetris or a combo and it saves you. Like, that does not happen here at all. Like, you're only making matches because you're doing it on purpose. So, as a result, it really does require a lot more brain power than most puzzlers, especially because it's not just like 3 in a row. You have to get like 6 and they all have to be together, so it's tough. Truth be told, I have not completed it yet, and I got crushed pretty badly the first few times I played. It was pretty humbling, but I am still enjoying it, and it's a really solid addition to the art style line. Nintendo is definitely upping the ante when it comes to downloads.
So, when you say completing it, is there an actual end game to this? It's not just play until you just can't take it anymore, a la Tetris?
There are a couple different modes. I haven't unlocked them all yet, but the first mode, solo mode, I think it's called, if memory serves, you actually can get to an ending sequence and see the credits roll. I think you have to have, I believe it's 6 different colors that fall on the board at the same time, and I was struggling with 3, so I gotta up my game a little bit on that. But yeah, you can actually finish it. So as with all the other art style titles, which is actually one thing I really appreciate. As a kind of completist, nothing makes me feel warm and fuzzy like seeing credits roll. So I'm all for that.
And are the art style games I know you've been playing them for the last few weeks? Do they have multiplayer components at all? Online leaderboards or split screen dueling or anything along those lines, or are they all single player experiences?
I believe that they all have the online leaderboard function. I can't confirm that off the top of my head. I should run downstairs and check. But as far as I know, there's no multiplayer on any of them. They're all pretty single-player experiences, and they're all fairly heavy on the puzzle side. When you take a look at them, the style and the presentation is really stripped down and bare and really almost aesthetic in a way. But it's good. I mean, I think they all have a great sensibility to them. But yeah, they don't really lend themselves to multiplayer. I think leaderboards is the best you can do there.
And I understand you've downloaded but not played the WiiWare game that I've actually been looking forward to most, and that's Alien Crush Returns.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big Alien Crush fan from back in the day. I loved it on the TurboGrafx 16. I mean, totally, it's one of my all-time favorites. So, I did have a chance to play it at PAX, and it looked like it was going to be a very faithful rendition. And it came out, I believe it was last week. I downloaded it on the spot, but truth be told, Fallout has been taking up all my time, and I just have not got around to it yet. So look for some words on it soon.
Well, as for me, I've been playing the new Castlevania on the DS, Order of Ecclesia. Now, you guys know me. I am the Castlevania nerd. You Yes, I'm one of the idiots. I actually have an imported Dracula X PC Engine Mint spine card. I've got Symphony of the Night on Saturn. I mean, I am insane. And as you guys know, if you've read my last couple of reviews from the Castlevania series, I have been severely disappointed with the fact that Igarashi, the producer, has he's been off his game for a little bit. And if the upcoming Castlevania Judgment is any indication, he still is off his game. But Order of Ecclesia has a wonderful freshness to it that, for some reason, I'm not sure what it is. If it's the settings, if it's the new glyph system, which is the way they do weapons. There's just something about it that sparked in me my old passionate love affair. There we go again with the love affairs for Castlevania.
Sex and games. It's got to be a new topic.
Well, as I say, it's a really solid piece of work. The music is wonderful. The plot is completely predictable. It follows the Igarashi formula that I've outlined a gajillion times, which is, somebody betrays or somebody sort of turns evil, but do they? And you fight, and there might be a special item where you get to see the real blah blah. Anyway, bottom line is, it's a solid piece for the DS, and I really wholeheartedly recommend it for anybody who's looking for something with a good amount of meat in it. Really high production values, and it's just a damn fine Castlevania romp. Quite frankly, I haven't seen a Castlevania game with this kind of quality in years, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if they can keep up this quality on the DS or beyond.
Or beyond. I really enjoyed the last Castlevania DS. Now, for the life of it, you did not.
No, I thought it was awful.
I can't remember a thing about it. I couldn't even remember what the title is. I just remember having
Portrait of Ruin.
Yes, with the portraits and the ruin and the
ruined portraits
and the ruined portrait.
It's like, hey, you got Super Mario 64 in my Castlevania. You got Castlevania in my Super Mario 64, and it still looked crap.
Tasted good though.
I don't know, guys. I found the switching system to be completely contrived. I thought they did it way better in Castlevania 3 on the NES. I thought the quests were completely arbitrary and felt like a means of tacking on extra gameplay to a game that really didn't deserve it. It seemed very shallow, extremely recycled. But again, I've been very jaded, so I'm sorry to be so combative about it, but I don't know.
Hey, Dave, I've got a question for you about Ecclesia, if you don't mind my asking. I haven't played it myself. Have you actually finished the game yet, or not yet?
I'm almost finished, but as I say, when She Who Must Be Obeyed says, let's play some more Gears co-op on Insane, what are you going to do?
No, I hear you. My wife's the same way. But I was going to ask you, I've heard some people say that Ecclesia is really cryptic, towards the end. I've heard it's really hard to just finish the game because there's some sort of, mid-game twist or something's hidden in such a way. I mean, I don't have any details because I didn't want to spoil myself, but I've heard a lot of people say, it was really hard, and that not only was it was hard to finish. People got lost or something like that. Did you notice anything like that at all?
Well, I don't want to spoil anything for our listeners either, but I will say, yes, that the traditional Igarashi twist is a lot more cryptic this time through. So, I mean, it really is going to be a difficult game, but some of the bosses, I will spoil one boss. It's very early in the game. Don't worry. Please don't send the hate mail. It's this giant spider you fight in a tower, and you basically keep climbing this tower, fighting it off, until you can activate an elevator to bring it down, the 25 stories you've climbed to crush it. It was just one of the most exhilarating Castlevania boss battles I've played in. I couldn't tell you. And that's the element that was missing in Portrait of Crappiness.
I've decided to change my mind. I hated Portrait of Ruin. Hated it. Absolutely despised it. No, I am going to pick up Ecclesia. I've just been trying to finish Final Fantasy IV DS, one of the many games I've been playing for far too long, but we'll talk more about that problem later. What else have you been playing, Dave? Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Well, I think it's something that you were talking about too, Tim, which is the Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts demo.
Okay, let me do this. I'm sorry. I have to interrupt. Let me mention this, and then you guys talk about Banjo-Kazooie all you want. For those,
Tim's on fire. Watch out!
I'm on fire. Do you feel the rage?
I feel the building. You got like a level 3 rage gauge, man.
I'm on fire.
No, that's just my laptop sitting on a pillow. Sorry.
All right. For those who don't know, this is the Xbox 360 sequel to the N64 Banjo games. It's called Nuts and Bolts, and I would describe it this way. And again, I've just played the demo. Played in quotation marks. Imagine if somebody came over to your house and took everything that you hate about Rare and just puked it all over your television. That's essentially what this game is. It starts with a flyover.
So, Tim, did you like it or not?
Well, if my first comment was vague, perhaps this will tighten it up for you. It starts with a flyover over what appears to be a very standard Rare overworld, which means it's incredibly disjointed, garish, overly complicated. And the first thing you notice is there's a bunch of crap lying around. There's puzzle pieces, there's musical notes, there's severed human limbs, whatever. And it's very clear that you're going to have to collect all of that stuff at some point, which is what I can't stand about the Rare games, is just the random collection. And then you stop the flyover, and then about 12 completely nondescript cartoon characters come out, and they start having a conversation about nothing. And there's no voice acting, so you have to read it all in dialogue balloons, and it just goes on and on and on. And then I had an aneurysm, so I hit the Xbox button and I deleted the demo. Nuts and Bolts releases Tuesday, November 11th. So
nice.
that's
the person you ain't, Tim.
I mean, good lord. So I got about 3 minutes into the demo, and that was all I could take. So if you guys had a different experience, I'd love to hear about it. But it's bloody awful.
Dave, you want to start?
You know what I really want to comment on is not even just how crappy the collectathon is going to be. The fact that the one thing that we loved about Banjo-Kazooie was the incredibly inventive platforming and all the abilities that Banjo and that bird had. But the fact that there's the Dead Rising text problem, which is that the text is unreadable on standard definition.
Oh, I totally agree. Could not read a damn thing.
But did you hear what the one of the producers said about it? He said that it was going to be too expensive and too time-consuming to fix. Then their forums exploded. Then Microsoft stepped in, and the PR firm said, "The problem's going to be fixed. We'll be patching it right away." But I'm just thinking the arrogance of a game company not to help the people who it's customers. They're cutting out at least half of their customers.
Particularly since this is a budget release, isn't it? It's a kid's game. It's a $40 release. I would imagine that you're going to have a lot of people who would have looked at this game who have standard definition televisions, right?
And there's no voiceover.
Probably. Yeah, the funny thing though is it's a kid's game, but it's not really a kid's game. After I played the demo, I thought it suffered from the same thing that Rare has always suffered from, and that's that they make their games look really kiddie and cute, which is fine. Like, when I'm in the mood for that, I have no problem with that whatsoever. So, I'm not saying that kiddie games are bad. I mean, I love games of all sorts. So it's not the graphics, but they make them look like they're really slanted towards kids, and then they crank the difficulty on them so that kids can't play them. And then when you get the older players who can handle the difficulty, they're totally turned off by what they're looking at. So it's totally ridiculous. And I agree with everything that you said, Tim, about the demo. My wife and I were playing it together this morning. She played it for like maybe 6 or 7 minutes and was disgusted and handed the controller off to me. And I'm like, I don't want to play this just based on what I've seen. It's clunky. It gets away from the formula. Like you said, the Banjo games on N64 are some of the best platformers of all time, if you ask me. I mean, I think in some ways, Banjo-Tooie, the sequel, was almost better than Super Mario 64. I mean, they really had the formula dialed in, and for them to get away from that for some clunky driving game is ridiculous. And I just want to add one more thing real quick. I just read an interview with one of the Rare developers, and they were saying that when they play tested this game with kids tended to ignore the vehicles. Keep in mind, this is a vehicle-based game. This game is all about building, making, and using vehicles. And when they gave it to kids didn't want to use the vehicles. And the guy at Rare said, I was really annoyed at that, but whatever. So, if you're making a game that obviously screams to be a platformer, the old school people wanted to be a platformer, the kids wanted to be a platformer, why are you going back to, whatever Diddy Kong's Racing or whatever it was that they made in the day? Like, get away from that formula. Make it a platformer or just make it a different license. And I just don't even know what they're doing. This one looks like an epic fail to me.
Well, there is one positive thing about the game coming out, and that's that they actually re-released Banjo-Kazooie on Xbox Live Arcade. And I think they should definitely be commended for that, because I don't know if there was any licensing involved with getting the code from the N64 version, but I've watched enough high-def video. I haven't been able to download that yet. I don't know if it's even out at the time of this podcast, but they've put a nice coat of spit and polish on the graphics, and personally, I'm going to download that, if only to play Banjo-Kazooie on my 50-inch plasma and have it look fantastic. And kudos to Rare for doing something right.
And that is out now, or that's upcoming?
Not yet. It's upcoming. I think, if I remember correctly, if you pre-ordered Nuts and Bolts, then you get the download for free. And I assume that if you just want to download it straight up for, $10 or $15 or whatever, it'll probably be out at about the time that Nuts and Bolts is released, I'm guessing.
I think we've reached a consensus on Banjo-Kazooie. Did either of you have any other games you wanted to mention before we get into this week's feature?
If I could just mention really, really quick, I also played the demo for Tomb Raider Underworld. I really liked the first Tomb Raider. I thought it was cool. I thought I would download the demo and see what it was all about, and I was amazed at how fantastic that game looks. Have you guys played the demo yet?
No, not yet.
Yeah, I played about half of it, and I didn't want to spoil it beyond the little bit that I played, but it is absolutely gorgeous.
Wasn't that the most beautiful game you've ever seen in your life? Weren't you, just completely bowled over by that?
Are you talking about Laura or the actual world?
No, just forget Laura. Just the world, the graphics, the water was like a postcard, man. I climbed to the top of a cliff, and I looked down, and I could not believe how realistic that water looked. I was like, oh my god, this is phenomenal. I mean, I'm not much of a graphics whore, but watching this game, I was like, let me get my high heels out and I'm going to put some makeup on for you. Because it was beautiful. It was I could not believe it.
My eyes, I can't get that image out of my head. Oh, why, Brad? Why?
I don't have a PS3 and I haven't played Uncharted. My understanding is that there are vistas in Uncharted that are very similar to what's in the Tomb Raider demo, so I can't compare. But in terms of just raw, pure environment, yeah, I can't think of anything that compares to it at all. It's absolutely gorgeous. What did you think of the gameplay? Because I had a couple of initial concerns that turned out to be not so much concerns.
Well, just off the top of my head, I do want to say real quick that I have played Uncharted, which I hate. I can't believe that game gets the good reviews it does. But it does not compare to Tomb Raider Underworld. Underworld just blows it away. But in terms of the gameplay, I thought the camera was a little sketchy in parts. It didn't seem to have that problem the first time around, but it wasn't big. I mean, it wasn't a major concern, and I felt to me like it was the exact same game, which was fine because I loved Crystal Dynamics' last one. So, I mean, in this particular case, more of the same wouldn't be a bad thing. What concerns did you have, Tim?
Well, and forgive the way I'm phrasing this, but did Lara feel a little loose to you?
You knew it was only a matter of time before that came up.
And I mention this only because it seemed to me that, in the original, Tomb Raider Legend, which I know is not the original Tomb Raider, but for me it's the first one I cared about. When you moved Lara up a cliff, if you pushed up on the stick, she moved straight up. If you push right, she moved straight right. But in this game, it's kind of gotten a little Assassin's Creed-y. In other words, it's doing a little extra work for you. So if you push up, she might move diagonally up to the right because there happens to be a rock in the environment there that she can grab onto. So ultimately, it feels like you're not controlling her as precisely, but in fact, her movement on the screen is more realistic. And once you get used to that, I think it works really well. But it was a little bit jarring initially.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I had a little bit of that sensation too, especially when I was trying to be very precise about jumping onto like a little teeny tiny ledge of rotting wood, 50 feet away. But yeah, I think after the first couple minutes, I got used to it, and I think, like you said, it's kind of the game compensating for navigating this, quote unquote, more realistic environment, rather than everything being based on a grid like the old Tomb Raiders. You're doing some diagonals this time, you're doing things that are a little off center. And as an old school Tomb Raider player, it kind of freaks me out because, I got so used to being on a 90-degree turn, so if I'm either, facing straight ahead, I'm going to jump straight ahead, or I'm going to jump straight left if I turn left. But now I have to kind of, rewire my brain into thinking that I can jump to places that I, could jump in the real world. So I hear what you're saying, but I think probably after 5 or 10 minutes of gameplay, it's going to be a non-issue.
Definitely. And it's definitely a game I'm going to try to pick up if I have time and money to do it. It seems like for every game I do get around to playing, there's about 15 games that I can't get to. And that's really what we're talking about this week in our one feature. Dave, your contribution to the show this week is the holiday gaming glut. What are we going to do about it? Why is it happening? Dave, solve this problem for us, would you?
Well, I'll see what I can do. Wow, no pressure for this one.
No pressure. We ask a lot of the new people on the show.
Oh, fantastic. No, my concern really is just, it doesn't make a lot of sense the way that publishers tend to want to release games. I mean, if you take a look at the history of game releases, because I'm a huge nerd and of course I did it, I can certainly understand that a lot of companies think that people are in a very spendy mood in this time of year, and to be fair, a lot of games, I guess, given the way development cycles work, just happen to be completed around now. Look at what's coming out in the fourth quarter this year alone. We got the epic battle of the music games, Guitar Hero World Tour versus Rock Band 2, and the vastly improved instruments for both whenever they don't break. We've got, of course, Fallout 3, we've got Mirror's Edge, we've got Resistance 2, we've got Gears of War 2, Dead Space, Left 4 Dead. Come on. You've got to be kidding me. And the problem is, if this is a problem, is a lot of these games are really good, and a lot of these games require tens, dozens, sometimes into the hundreds of hours of gameplay to actually, really appreciate. And while I think that's absolutely fantastic, they're all coming out at once. And if you ever talk to a guy like Mike Bracken, he and I think, are in an arms race to have who has more games still in shrink wrap.
Would you care to divulge that number?
I would not, because it would be really, really depressing for anyone to go down to my basement. Oh Lord, I think at one point, through no fault of my own, on our dining room table, which we haven't eaten on, by the way, in months, simply because there have been some 30 or 40 DS games sitting on that thing. It's ridiculous. Granted, I'm a very weird exception for the sheer number, but I know I'm not alone. What games are you guys looking forward to this year that you're not going to get a chance to play?
Oh man, well there's a ton. Thankfully, I will say one thing that I really like about the current age of gaming is that now that demos are so much more readily available, I'm able to knock a lot of games off my list before I even get overwhelmed. For example, I had my eye on Mirror's Edge, and EA is kind of positioning that to be one of the big blockbusters. And once I played the demo, I'm like, whatever, I'll pick that up for $10 when it's used. That one looks like a bust to me. But there's a bunch of stuff I'm looking forward to. Like you guys are saying, a lot of these games take a lot of time. Take, for example, Persona 4. I was a huge fan of Persona 3. I thought it was a fantastic RPG in the Japanese style. Persona 4 is coming out, I believe it's December 9th. And the last time I spent with Persona was 100 hours. 100 hours. For someone like me who has a job and you got a family, 100 hours is a pretty monstrous amount of time to devote. So just the fact that Persona 3 is coming out pretty much negates, 90% of the other things I would have played. Not to mention Last Remnant is coming out, which is another large RPG, another one that needs a lot of time. I guess I can try to work in a few other smaller things, but I'm already overwhelmed, and it's not even December yet.
Yeah, I'm looking at, I got to Fallout 3 last night, and if I didn't play anything else, I could probably just play Fallout 3 for the rest of the year. But this Wednesday at midnight, Wrath of the Lich King. And for the World of Warcraft players among us, all 11 million of us, this thing, I mean, it doesn't really even count as a game. It's just part of my lifestyle. So that will probably more than anything keep me from playing these other games that I want to play. But I am trying to work out in my head how on earth I could possibly finish Fallout 3 and play Wrath of the Lich King simultaneously and get to Tomb Raider Underworld, Gears of War 2, all of these other things. And it's, I've kind of reached a point where I've said, you know what? If I don't ever play, anything on the PlayStation 3, that's okay. That's just the way my life will go.
The problem is that there are two things that both of you guys pointed out that I think is going to present a huge problem. For starters, Brad, you were saying that there are certain games you'll just wait till they're $10 in the discount bin to buy, or worse for the publisher, buy it used. Now, this is one of the big things that I was thinking about is for publishers, they know that the shelf space is going to be crowded. Wouldn't it just make a lot more sense, given the way that games tend to depreciate in value very quickly, to try to space them a little bit more evenly throughout the year, so that way there are fewer games competing at once for gamer dollars?
Well, that would make sense now, wouldn't it?
It would make sense. Unfortunately, you have finance directors at these publishers saying you have to release right now, and what can they do? Not everybody has the endless resources of a Blizzard or of a Valve where they can afford to just release their games regardless of whatever a chief financial officer tells them.
No, I do understand that point, but the main thing here is that if one can even remotely anticipate a development cycle at this point, I mean, of course things pop up, but the big things that tend to pop up tend to happen with those larger, big-budget games that have the big publishers behind them. My point is that when a game is released, it has absolutely nothing to do with the sales it achieves. Absolutely nothing. As I say, I did a little research. I am a nerd. And I sourced the top 20 console titles. So this doesn't count for PC. Sorry, Mike Doolittle. I can't help you there. But as far as console games, of the top 20, 16 of the top 20 titles did not come out in the fourth quarter. 9 of the top 10 didn't come out in the fourth quarter. Let me throw a few at you. The number one game, of course, Pokemon. The original. Came out, and these are all US release dates. I'm sorry, Europe, because of course you guys never get games anyway. And much worse, unfortunately, for Australia. That came out in September. Nintendogs came out in August. Mario 3, February. These are seminal big games that have sold bucket loads. And here's some more really big influential titles on our industry that you can't think about gaming without bringing up. The Sims came out after Christmas in January. Street Fighter 2 came out in July. Even this year we had Grand Theft Auto 4 in April. You had Metal Gear Solid 4 in June. And I mean, we can even go way back in time. Anyone remember Mortal Monday? September the 13th for Mortal Kombat 1. None of these really historic games came out in the fourth quarter. Even last year, one of the biggest games of the year, BioShock, August. The original Sonic the Hedgehog, June. I mean, I can keep rattling this.
Dave, I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think that the research you've done just kind of proves what every gamer kind of knows intrinsically, and that is gamers play games all year long. And I think that, it's been said a million times, but some of those CEOs are still kind of locked into the, fourth quarter holiday gift buying cycle. But now the gamers are getting older, the demographic is moving up. People have money who play games. I mean, you can't find anybody that doesn't play games, this day and age. And, we don't only play in the fourth quarter. I mean, I think that developers would be really smart to just acknowledge this fact and just roll with it. And like you've said, I mean, if all those games are selling like gangbusters outside of Christmas, it almost seems like, like a bad mistake to release during Christmas when there is so much competition. I know that there's been a ton of games which have released during the fourth quarter, and they just get swallowed up and lost. I mean, they just disappear into the ether, and they're never heard from again, when if they had been released in spring or summer, or, for gosh sakes, even in January after everybody's got their Christmas money, that, they would get a bigger audience than they would competing with all the blockbusters.
I absolutely agree with you on that one, Brad. I mean, the 4 words that epitomize this: beyond good and evil. It's only by a miracle from heaven above that a sequel is actually in development, but that game got destroyed because in the same year, from the same company, you had the original Prince of Persia: Sands of Time and the original Splinter Cell.
And that's actually even a better example than the one I was going to bring, which was Metal Gear Solid 3, which, for all intents and purposes, should have been an enormous, massive blockbuster, released almost simultaneously against Halo 2 and GTA San Andreas in 2004, and was actually sold the least number of copies of any Metal Gear Solid. So, you have the larger titles. You also have the smaller, more innovative titles. We've talked about the games like World of Goo we talked about last week, which I don't know how well it's selling, but with all of these things coming out right now, World of Goo, something like that could get very easily lost in the maelstrom here.
An even better example than that is the Penny Arcade game Rain Slick Precipice of Darkness, Episode 2. The first one was great, and Penny Arcade has a really huge following, but they had the bad luck to release on the exact same day that Fallout 3 came out, and as much as I love Penny Arcade, and guys, I do love you, I'm sorry, but I gotta look at Fallout 3 before I look at Precipice 2. So, I mean, I'm sure that their sales would have been, I'm sure they're good, but I'm sure they would have been like 3 times what they would have been if Fallout hadn't come out on the same day.
Well, that's something the movie industry does, and I'm very surprised that the gaming industry hasn't learned how to follow suit. Many movie titles their release dates are known years in advance, like 2 to 3 years in advance. Now, I know that things in gaming can take a little bit longer. I mean, look at Half-Life 2, for heaven's sakes. Look at Duke Nukem Forever. But is there any reason why game companies couldn't start to think about their calendar and go, okay, when do we have nothing? Because, I mean, basically, by doing everything in the holidays, they're basically shooting their cash flow in the foot. I don't know about you guys, but I just simply cannot afford all these games at all. And the problem is, they're games I'd really like to play.
Yeah, and another thing that goes along with this is we now have all of these online, with the Xbox Live. I sound like an old guy. with the Xbox Live, the Xbox Live and the PSN and the
get off my lawn.
These online communities do have a finite lifespan. Not every game is Call of Duty 4 where there are still 50,000 people playing. Something like, I don't know if you've tried to get a game of Concept Saga going or a game of Lost Cities, but there are no more online communities for these games. They do have a finite life. And so if people don't play them right away, if they don't buy them immediately upon release and get in on that action, if you buy that 6 months from now, you may not get to enjoy the online experience. So that seems to be motivating people to buy early to get in on that action.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Tim, because I was actually going to bring the exact same issue up. And I gotta say, I didn't really care for achievements right when they first came out, but I'm pretty addicted to achievements now. And as someone who plays mostly single player, I'm a little bit dismayed to see that so many achievements are heavily dependent on playing with others over live. For me, that's just kind of always a problem because I'm a real solo gamer, but I feel bad for a lot of these people who are not going to be able to get to all the games they want to get to in fourth quarter. And by the time that, Timmy or Bobby or Jimmy or little Susie or whoever gets their copy of Gears of War, which, okay, bad example, people are still going to be playing that, but, one of those other million games that come out, there's not going to be anybody to get those achievements with because nobody's going to be online playing them. It's kind of ridiculous,
And that's a whole part of the dilemma for sure, because, I mean, if I can play devil's advocate, thank you, Tim, that no one is forcing us to buy these, gajillions of titles during the fourth quarter. I mean, the fact of the matter is the game is available in the next 3 months or 12 months and will probably be cheaper, and the question is, isn't that a good thing? And other than the online point, I think that it really does hit publishers where it counts, because they're going to have to force a lot of inventory. And the other thing that happens is oftentimes there's some games that are in very limited release. Things from Atlas, for example, or Natsume, some of the really great niche titles, sometimes only get one printing.
No, that's very true.
They may end up being swallowed up.
I actually agree with that 100%. Whenever we get into a big release crunch like this, I gotta say, most of my dollars go towards Atlas, because I know that they don't print very many of their games, and trying to track that stuff down on eBay is going to cost me 3 times more than if I had just bought it straight up. So I'm going to always be able to find a used copy of Gears of War 2. I'm going to always be able to find a used copy of Fallout or whatever. But, it's going to be a little tougher to find a copy of Eternal Poison. Or it may be kind of tough to find a copy of Persona 4. So, I support the niche titles when I can, but yeah, they get lost in the shuffle. It's ridiculous.
So the question is then, what are these guys going to do about it? And if nothing else, I would love for one CEO to contact GameCritics.com and explain their rationale in the face of all of this evidence. Because as a gamer, here's what I'm going to do this holiday. Other than Fallout 3, which I know I have to buy, I'm not buying anything. I'm actually going cold turkey for a month or two. If only because if I really do honestly try to go after the games that I want, I will be contributing to the credit crisis, maxing out my card, and quite frankly, half the games I buy anyway are going to basically be lovingly preserved in plastic for a long time to come. So, I don't know about you guys, but my strategy this year is to only play the stuff I really want to play, and I feel terrible about it, but because there's all these AAA titles, but I can't do it.
I hear you. My strategy right now is to GameFly, there's no person out there except for some CEO or maybe some of these Microsoft programmers who live near me who've got all this excess cash that can afford to buy every single game that you want to play in the holidays. There's just no way. It's financially impossible for most average gamers. So, I'm going to probably end up renting most of the stuff that I want to play. I'll play it while it's hot, play it while those online communities are still happening. And, I probably will buy a copy of those because that's just how I am, but I'm not going to buy them right away. I'd probably spend a couple $1,000s in the fourth quarter if I bought everything I had my eye on. And instead, to avoid the penalties of keeping up with the rush, I'll just rent and I'll pick up stuff for $10, $15, $20 later on. The publishers, in my eyes, are going to lose out.
And I'm sure the publishers are happy to hear that. I'm sure the publishers are really happy to hear that.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm kind of surprised they are not taking steps to avoid this fourth quarter crunch.
Yeah, and like I said, for me, I've made peace with it. I for about the last 2 years, I buy one game at a time. I play that game all the way through, and then I go buy the next one. And if I don't get to everything, you know what? I don't get to everything, and I'm going to be okay with that. So for me, Fallout 3, Wrath of the Lich King, that'll keep me going until...
summer, probably.
Probably, actually, yeah. So, we've thrown down the gauntlet. We welcome all the CEOs and CFOs and all of the publishing heads to join us here on the podcast, even if it's just one of you, and tell us why. Answer the question.
Now, there is one publisher who likes avoiding the holiday glut problem. I was reading on Gamasutra, after I raised the topic for this week's show, thank you, that the CEO of Stardock, Brad Wardell, plans his games to be released in the first quarter. They've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years here, so I want to quote this article. Stardock has a history of skipping the mad rush of the holiday season with its releases, yet hitting impressive sales figures amongst its target audience. Now, I don't know what that tells you guys, but to me, that just shows that it really doesn't matter when the games come out, as long as they're games people actually want to buy.
Dave, that was a great topic.
Oh, thanks, Tim. It was a lot of fun talking with you guys.
I think you ought to come back.
I think I may have to do that. as long as that ankle bracelet doesn't shock me anymore. If they let me out.
Well, to our listeners, we do hope that, to our listeners, we want to know what you think. So we crave your feedback. Please send your comments, your thoughts, your feelings on this week's episode to podcast@gamecritics.com. That's also where you can send your podcast title suggestions. That contest is almost over. We're very close. But if you have an idea, sneak it in there. There's still time. Podcast@gamecritics.com. Remember, if we pick your title, you'll get to be on the show with us. Undoubtedly a dream come true. So, podcast@gamecritics.com. Also sign up on the forums, join in the discussion there. Life on the internet goes on. So, for Brad, for Dave, for the entire GameCritics.com family, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on the GameCritics.com podcast.